Hello all you minders out there. Welcome to 2020 and welcome back to the Mind of Watercolor. Hope everybody out there in YouTube watercolor land is doing great. Having a great start to your year. I'm glad to be back. Lots of things planned this year. We'll talk about that just a little bit. Goals. So what are my goals for 2020? And I don't do New Year's resolutions. For me, New Year's is just a time to reflect and reiterate my goals. Things that mean the most to me, to put the emphasis back where they should be, maybe shift them to new things. What are your goals for 2020? I read all the comments too. You know, I should reiterate that ever so often. I read every comment. Literally. I do not comment. It's just impossible, logistically impossible to respond to every comment. And most of them are not questions or things needing a response, but I do read every comment. So would love to see what you're thinking. Looking forward to doing this year, art-wise, maybe watercolor-wise. I don't know. You know, I've thought about a lot of things. One of the things I do want to reiterate, though, right off the bat, I get comments a lot that sort of make assumptions about this channel and what this channel is like and what it does. I welcome all levels of watercolorists, and I have all levels. People watching this channel range everywhere from the absolute beginner who's never picked up a watercolor palette and a watercolor brush to professional illustrators to teachers. So we get a wide variety of viewers on this channel. I do not specifically gear this channel to the absolute beginner, but I hope that content is there. And as such, I kind of tend to work at my level, at where I like to work, so you can see where the medium can take you. I like for this channel to be an inspiration. And what I like to do when I paint and talk is give you my thought process as I work. And this should be valuable to both the advanced painter and the beginning painter. At least I hope it is, and gives you the thought process behind how to paint and what you do when you paint and how you're making your decisions. That said, a certain type of comment I tend to get is from beginners looking at this channel as a teaching channel, like a course, like step 1, video 1, step 2, video 2. This channel, unfortunately, is not organized that way. I always intended for this to be supplementary to long-form step-by-step instructions. Now, I will do a little of that, but I do not have this channel organized in a course fashion, and it's not going to be, okay? If that's what you're looking for, if that's what you're hoping I'm going to be, and hoping I'm going to do, I'm not going to do that. This channel is a lot more random. This channel has more of a walk into my studio, let's get some random tips and techniques, or what are we thinking about and talking about today? It's sort of your daily dose of watercolor wisdom, inspiration, product, thoughts, ideas. Just steeps you in that world. And I like sharing that randomly. That's the way I'm wired. That's the way I think it works best on YouTube. And I hope it's something that works for you and that you enjoy. Now, that said, too, I also have playlists. So make sure you're checking out those playlists if you want to narrow down the content to a particular subject or type of painting. Just go to my main channel page. And by the way, if you're not a real experienced YouTube user, the way you get to my channel page is the name of my channel on any video is a link to my channel page. So if you're watching a video of mine, you have a link right there in front of you to get to my main channel page. Now on my main channel page, you will see the latest uploads. You will also see the playlists or some of the featured playlists. You can also click on the playlist to see all of them. And every video I do, I usually at some point will categorize it to a playlist. Now on that main channel page, you will also see a little search magnifying glass. So if there's something you're looking for on a particular subject, just click in that search bar and type in a term. So that's the way this channel was structured. And the reason I did that is when I started this channel 5 years ago, there was a real niche need for that. There was hardly any of that on YouTube. There's more of it now. I'd like to think I kind of inspired some of that, but nevertheless, if you saw professional artists, I mean really experienced professional artists doing YouTube videos and teaching me how to do techniques, they usually were putting portions of DVDs they had published or portions of long tutorials, workshop kind of things. And while there's nothing wrong with long form content, if that's what you're into, I really felt there was a need for experienced professionals to come onto YouTube and provide more easy to digest, quick tips, techniques, and approaches that would help you along your way, and just kind of in quick fashion apprise you more of what you can do and what's available for watercolor and what you can aspire to, basically. That's the premise behind this channel. So in answer to a frequent question I get, there is no real order to my content, but do check out those playlists. So what about 2020, Steve? Well, okay. Here's some of the things that I've got coming. Now, more of the same watercolor paintings. Due to some polls that I've taken, landscape is by far the most popular. We'll do plenty of that. I may start adding some tutorials on drawing, just a few. Now, I tend to do drawing tutorials more on Patreon, but I will share a few here. One new and exciting thing I really want to get into this year, I've had a lot of requests. It's something very exciting to me, and that is mixed media, as it revolves and pertains to watercolor. Watercolor is a great base or supplement to a mixed media approach. Now, we do a little of that. We've done a little of that on this channel. You know, graphite and watercolor, pen and ink and watercolor, or line and wash. I almost don't think of that as mixed media because it's so common and it's such a common technique. But gouache over watercolor, again, it's debatable whether that's mixed media because it's all watercolor. Now, I've already done a few of that, but I hope to have more gouache this year. Something I've not done, though, and I want to do because they're natural companions, is colored pencil over watercolor, or colored pencil with watercolor. Standard wax or oil-based colored pencils, not watercolor pencils. Great mediums together. Multiple mediums. Pen and ink, pastel, colored pencil, all of those over watercolor. And how about even oil and watercolor? Yeah, there are ways you can do oils with watercolor. Done it. Love it. Now we'll see what else we can get into. Lots of ways to combine mediums. I'm hoping to do more on non-watercolor paper surfaces. I've had a lot of questions about watercolor ground and watercolor non-paper surfaces, basically. I hope we'll do a few of those. Watercolor and acrylic. There are ways you can combine those. There are also ways that you shouldn't combine them. By and large, though, this is going to stay the mind of watercolor. We're going to have more of the same kind of content I've done for these 5 years. So I'm not shifting the overall emphasis of this channel. I'm just going to add these other goodies, hopefully. That's my plan anyway. We'll see how it goes. There's a series also I started in 2019 that I haven't done another episode of, but I will be, and that's the palette picks. Palette picks is just a brand that I will add to particular videos when I'm using a palette that's different from my normal palette. It might have been picked by a different artist. It might be marketed by a particular paint brand as a selection of colors. If you saw my episode on palette picks, you know what I'm talking about. So there will be more of those. I know I've only done one, but more of those are coming. So that's a brief look into 2020. And I already have 2 reviews for you to do today on this video. All right, let's start off the year with a couple of product reviews. I've been anxious to show you these. I originally planned to put this and the other thing I'm going to show you into the holiday shopping episode, but I didn't really get these in time. So I thought I would hold off, and I've been chomping at the bit to try this, but I wanted to try it for the first time on camera. I have looked at it. This particular item is the Indygraf Fountain Pen. Now, I love great stories. If you've seen any of my reviews of products that have been brought to you by individuals who basically thought them up, brought them to market, and sold them. In other words, not companies, not a art supply company or manufacturing company or whatever you would want to put on it. These are individuals who just had an idea and wanted to take it to market. I love stories like that, especially when it's a good product and they're successful. So the Indygraf Pen's claim to fame is that it uses India ink. Now, if you know anything about fountain pens, you know putting India ink in a fountain pen is an extreme no-no. India ink has a shellac in it. It dries hard and permanent. It's one of the things that makes it such a resilient ink for art. It's usually used in brushes or in dip pens, which are easy to clean out. If you put it in a fountain pen, typically it will gum up the fountain pen and ruin it. And by the way, this is just an absolutely gorgeous pen. whether you want to use India ink or not. I mean, it's just a beautiful pen. It's an aluminum body, just stylish, sleek. I really, really love the looks of this pen. But getting back to the design, what they've done is they've added a little reservoir up here. And this is a reservoir you fill with water. Now, it's designed to just basically open this cap, and you can run it under a faucet, running water. See, there's a hole. I don't know if you can see that. There's a hole there, and there's one on the opposite side. All right, yeah, so I went down to the sink and filled that. It's hard to kind of fill it all the way up, and you're supposed to be able to look in the end here in this glass and see the level. I can kind of see the level. But I can tell there's water in there, and you'd only need enough to keep the tip of the pen moist. That's the idea. Anyway, I have enough water in there, I think. So let's take a look at the pen. And this is the extra fine. It comes in an extra fine, a fine, and a medium. And you can even get calligraphy nibs, a 1.1 and a 1.4 calligraphy nib, which is something I think I might like to try. But this is the extra fine. And if I were ordering this, I would have got the extra fine. So I'm glad that he sent me that one. And by the way, I am not being sponsored by Indygraf. They're not paying me a cent. They did send me product to try. But I'm not making any commissions off of this. Really nice pen point, really nice aluminum feel on the barrel of the pen. So let's go ahead and fill it with ink. It uses the universal converter configuration. You'll see a lot of fountain pens out there with this type of cartridge. So you can use a cartridge. Most of those are sort of a water soluble ink. This is a typical screw piston converter you find in a lot of fountain pens. This pen set comes with a little 4 milliliter vial of India ink. On the website though, and I think maybe even in the instructions, yeah, there is a list of all of the compatible India inks. This product was started, by the way, on a Kickstarter, and he successfully raised the money to manufacture the product. Now he's selling it outright off of his website. Whoa, I just made that overflow. So we're going to go ahead and just stick the converter in there. I can keep from tipping it over and fill the converter. I'm getting ink all over the place. All right, now we'll go ahead and recap that. Clean up later. I'm going to put that converter back in, and according to the instructions, you twist the converter until a drop comes out of the pen, and there it is. Okay, all right, I'm going to set the vial back in the box. Try not to get ink all over this nice pen, because that is the issue. India ink is quite permanent. There's not, once it dries, there's not a whole lot that will get India ink out. I guess probably solvents, but I don't really want to go that route. All right, we're going to put the pen point back into the body. I have one of my sketchbooks that I do a lot of line and wash in. I'll go back here. I had a page that I was using in another video on the unis, the uni pens. Okay, so I'm going to just draw a line. Oh, and the tip is nice and flexible. I like that. It's cool. I mean, it's just really cool knowing that you're drawing with a fountain pen, which I love drawing with a fountain pen anyway, but knowing that you're drawing with India ink. And one of the cool things about this, if you go on the website and take a look around, you can use acrylic inks in this, so basically colors, inks that would normally dry out and foul a good fountain pen. Now, I haven't tested this over time, obviously. The ink is flowing very well off the tip. And really, India ink flows pretty well out of any fountain pen, just about. The big surprise comes when you put the cap on, come back and use your fountain pen days later and find that it's totally gummed up. This has more flex. This is not as flexible maybe as what I would call a standard flex nib, but it's definitely more flexible than most of your fountain pens with a standard nib. Alright, so that's a first look at the Indygraf India ink fountain pen. It's about 70 euros. That's just under $80 US dollars. And they are taking orders off of their website. So if it's something that interests you, and I'll report back on it because I'll use it over time and we'll monitor the water level. I have a hard time really seeing any kind of water in there. I can tell there's water in there. I may try to go fill that cap better than I did. But I tell you, I love this fountain pen, whether it takes India ink or not. It's just a really beautiful, beautiful pen. Okay, nice snug capping on there. And there it is. Alright, so we got a fun product here. And again, I haven't spent much time looking at this one, if at all. I wanted to do that on camera. You may be familiar with Stan Prokopinko. He's probably the foremost drawing teacher, I would say, on YouTube. And Stan has a site where he does a lot of drawing tutorials. This is Stan Prokopinko's Anatomical Skull. So Reese has got some competition. I'm hoping he'll adopt this as sort of a little brother. This is a drawing tool, or drawing reference tool. This is about 1/4 actual human size. A very, very high quality casting. And the casting of this was done from equally high quality 3D print. This lower jaw is magnetized, so it goes right here. And you can put, Stan suggests if you want to draw the skull with the mouth open, that you just put a little piece of kneaded eraser or something in there. But highly, highly accurate detail. Very solid and heavy. This feels almost heavy like ceramic. Now, the most distinctive feature about this skull is that it is exactly to Andrew Loomis's proportions. What a lot of us artists have come to know is the Loomis head. The Loomis head is a method of drawing proportions of skulls, or the human head. You'll find it in this book if you have the Andrew Loomis book. And the Loomis method of drawing the head roughly follows this format and proportions. So Stan designed this skull to match that. And aside from these features and the size, it's designed with a tripod mount, so you can turn it in space. I got this little GorillaPod tripod here. Mount that there, lock it in, and there you go. Look up at the camera. Imagine from the camera's viewpoint you're drawing that, so you can turn it. Side views, top-down views. Pretty neat. I think on Patreon, I'm going to have my patrons do a naming contest. See if we can give him a name. Be Reese's little brother. I really don't know whether it's a female or a male skull, so we'll make him a little brother. I don't know if I'd trust Reese otherwise. Anyway, back to the skull. This is pretty cool. I can't wait to do some drawings. And I will do some drawings from this. If you're a portraitist, do a lot of human head drawing, a human skull reference model is a great tool, great reference tool. It's really awesome to be able to draw something like this in 3D space. And just by way of instruction, one of the key reasons that you draw something like a skull rather than the face itself, I mean, you want to be able to draw the human face also, but these bony prominences show up It's kind of like looking at a diagram, you know? It's why learning this is so important. The extremes of the cheekbones, the brow ridge, the temples, there's a ridge here. And you will see as you draw the human head, you'll see those features show up. And learning the proportions, like say distances, how much is this in relation to this, where does the bridge of the nose or the eyebrow ridge lie proportion to everything else, really does help when you're drawing faces. And learning where those bony prominences, like the top of the bridge of the nose, and where that lies with the eyes, the side ridge above the temple, next to the eye sockets, things like that, the wrap of the mouth, and the cheek, the sunken part of the cheeks. Even though you're drawing in fleshy tissue, it's just great to know and learn where those areas lie, where the ear attaches in relation to the jaw, where the jaw is in relation to front to back of the head, things like that. Just you get the point. If you're really interested in drawing and learning to draw the human head, there are lots of reasons to use Real Skull Reference. I'll put, of course, the links to all of these products, or both of these products, down below. There's also a really interesting video that Stan did about his development of this skull. It's just a fun video to watch, see what he went through when he was developing this. And on his site you can buy this. Again, he's not sponsoring this. I bought this with my own money. I wasn't even sent a sample. I wanted one, and I thought it would be great to review it for you. It's about $85, I think, but very high quality. You know, you won't find a human skull model, reference model like this, just by going out and finding something that's a human skull. There's so many things, like the Halloween stuff that you see. Most of that is extremely inaccurate. So patrons, look for a post. We're going to name this guy. All right. So thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. That's officially my kickoff to 2020. Let's go do some art.